Okay, we are ready for your Chapter 9, your Module 9 algebra test. And so this is the practice test all worked out. For number 1, you are going to have to graph the entire function y equals x squared minus 3, being sure to label the axis of symmetry and the vertex. So let's start with axis of symmetry. So the formula for axis of symmetry is opposite b over 2a. So I don't have a b term. So my b term is going to be 0. And what I know is 0 divided by anything is going to be 0. So I know that my axis of symmetry is going to be 0. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and label that is my axis of symmetry. You can abbreviate it like I did. Then I want to label the vertex. So what you do to get the vertex is you take your axis of symmetry, which was 0, and you plug it in for x, and so that we can get y, which will be our vertex. The whole coordinate will be our vertex. So if 0 is x, I'm going to do 0 squared. 0 squared minus 3 is negative 3. So negative 3 is my y. So the vertex is 0, negative 3. I'm going to draw a little line to it and say vertex. Okay. Now I know that's a parabola because I know it's squared, and I know I'm going to need 5 points. So I need to choose 2 more, and then I can reflect them over. So I'm going to make a mini table, and I'm going to choose a 1 and a 2, just because I like doing positives better than negatives. I make fewer mistakes. So I'm going to plug in 1 for x. So 1 squared is 1, minus 3 is negative 2. So my coordinate would be 1, negative 2. So 1, negative 2 is here, and then I will reflect it over to give me my 3rd point. And now I'm going to plug in 2 for x, so 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. So my other coordinate is 2, 1. So over 2, up 1. And then I can reflect that over my axis of symmetry, and I'm done. There are my 5 points on my parabola. Please be sure you actually draw in your parabola with arrows on both ends. All right, let's do the next one. Oh, there's no graph. We're just finding axis of symmetry and vertex. So opposite b over 2a is going to give me my axis of symmetry. b is 6, so opposite 6 would be negative 6. Over 2 times a is a 1. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So my axis of symmetry is negative 3. And I know in order to get a vertex, I'm going to take that negative 3 and I'm going to plug it in for x. Here and here. Be sure you plug it into all of the x's. That's going to be negative 3 and that's going to be negative 3. So negative 3 squared is 9. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. And then I've got a minus 2. So 9 minus 18 minus 2. I don't know what that is. 9 minus 18 minus 2 is negative 11. So my coordinate, my ordered pair for the vertex is negative 3, negative 11. Okay, remember the axis of symmetry should be the first ordered pair, the x coordinate of your ordered pair. All right, number 3 is going to be a circling, and there's 3 different things to circle. So you're going to circle either up or down, either above or below, and either wider or narrower. So let's take a look at this parabola. Y equals negative, so negative tells me it is going to open down. It is going to be upside down. Okay, the vertex will be either above or below the origin. Since it's a plus 1, that is going to shift my parabola up 1. So it's going to be above the origin. And then as compared to the parent function, just a y equals x squared, this one is being multiplied by 2. It's 2 times my parent function x squared, which means it's going to be skinnier and longer. So it's going to be narrower. All right, so again, up or down is going to be positive or negative. Above or below is going to be if it's plus something or minus something. And then wider or narrower is going to be if it's multiplied by a whole number, it's narrower. If it's multiplied by a fraction, like if this was half, it would be wider. Okay, number 4 is just solving an equation. So pretend like I've never taught you anything about quadratics or squareds, and you're just going to solve the equation. So you are going to add 72 to both sides. Then you are going to bring down your 2x squared equals 72. The next thing you would do is divide both sides by this 2. You would have x squared equals, I think that's 36, but double check in your calculator. So you're not done yet though, because you can't put what x squared is. I want just what x equals. So we need to take the square root of both sides. And the square root of 36 is 6, but it could also be negative 6. Because negative 6 times negative 6 is also positive 36. So I want both answers. You can either write it like this, or you can separate it out and put 6 comma negative 6. All right, number 5. Okay, this one could be no solution. Let's check and see. So the first thing you would do, I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So 6x squared minus 12 equals 12. Let's go ahead and do the next part. You would add 12 to both sides. That would be 6x squared equals 24. Divide both sides by 6. X squared equals 24 divided by 6, which is 4. X squared is 4, so you still need to take the square root of both sides. And once again, it could be 2 or negative 2. Because negative times negative would also be positive 4. So your answer is both positive and negative, not 4, but 2. Oops, about put 4. Okay. Number 6, let's solve this one. Divide both sides by negative 5. M squared equals 125 divided by negative 5. Negative 25. Okay, let's stop right there. A number times itself will never be negative. Never. You cannot have a squared number be negative. It's an imaginary answer. It's not a real solution. So that is not possible. So I am going to write the words no solution. All right, number 7. Okay, this one is solved by factoring. And remember, if there's a 1 at the beginning, a hidden invisible 1, you don't have to do the diamond method. You can go directly to this and see what we can multiply to get 18 and add to get negative 9. So we know x squared means there's an x at the beginning. What two numbers can I multiply to get 18 and add to get negative 9? So I hope you said negative 6 and negative 3. The reason it's a negative times a negative is because I need it to be positive when I multiply, but a negative plus a negative is going to be a greater negative 9 when we add. So negative 6 and negative 3, and the order doesn't matter. You could have put your negative 3 first or negative 6, but negative 6 times negative 3 is positive 18, and negative 6 plus negative 3 is negative 9. So we are going to branch these off and set them both equal to 0, and you are going to actually solve the equation. Now you might already have known what it was going to be in your head, and that's okay. 6 is one of the answers, and when I add 3 on both sides to this one, positive 3 is my other answer. Now, you don't have to show the work for this part. If you knew it was x minus 6, that's going to become positive 6. And if you knew that x minus 3 was going to become positive 3, you can go ahead and just write what those two answers are. I'm just showing you why that's what it is, because they're equal to 0. So you need to set them each equal to 0 and actually solve it. All right, if we're factoring, we need it to be equal to 0 like this other one was, and this one is not equal to 0. So the first thing you should do is subtract that 3 to the other side. So you should have 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals 0. Now it's a trinomial. Okay, and unfortunately my first number is not 1. It's not a hidden invisible 1. So I am going to look to see if I can factor out anything first, and I can't because 2 won't divide out evenly from 5 or 3, and none of the other ones will either. So we have to move on to the diamond method. In the top of the diamond is A times C. So 2 times -3 is -6. You can put x squared on there if you want, or you don't have to. The bottom of the diamond is my B. And then on the left and right, there are fractions where you have your ax over and ax over. All right, the bottom is where we come up with two numbers that when you multiply, you get -6, and when you add, you get 5. So what two factors of -6 get multiplied to be -6 and get added to be 5? I'm thinking it's got to be one of each, because when you multiply, you need to have a negative. So one's going to be negative and one's going to be positive. And I'm thinking it must be 6 and 1. So 6 and -1, because 6 times -1 is -6, and 6 plus -1 is 5. So that's right. So then you have to simplify. 2 and 6 will both divide evenly by 2. That would be 1 and 3, and then you're done. And these don't simplify. So your two sets of parentheses are x plus 3 and 2x minus 1. Now you're not done. It's equal to 0, don't forget. So we have to branch them off and solve them. This one you can probably do in your head. If it's plus 3, it's going to be -3. This one you may or may not be able to do in your head. I'm going to go ahead and work it out for the video's sake. You would add 1 to both sides. Some of you are good at this in your head, but I don't think on a test I would take the risk. I would go ahead and work it out like I'm doing, and that's going to be half. So this one is, so it's -3 and half. Okay. This one is just using the discriminant. So all we have to come up with is how many solutions, the number of solutions. So in case you forgot, the discriminant is the square root of b squared minus 4ac. That's the only part of the discriminant. So I am going to write what my a is, what my b is, and what my c is. My a is, oh, it's not equal to 0. So it's actually not done yet. So I would rewrite this just so that I know when I subtract 3, it's going to be combined with this -10 because that's its like term. And -10 minus 3 more is -13. Now it equals 0. And again, if you're not sure, put it in your calculator. Put -10 minus 3. So my a is 1, my b is 7, and my c is -13. All right, so I'm going to use this formula, and I'm going to write b squared, which that's 7 squared, minus 4 times a times c. Okay, 7 squared is 49. -4 times 1 is -4 times -13. -4 times -13 is positive 52, so it's going to be plus 52, and I can stop right there. I don't know what 49 plus 52 is, but I know it's going to be positive, and positive square roots have 2 solutions. Just a quick reminder, because I don't know on your test which one you're going to get, but if it's a positive answer under the square root, it's 2 solutions. If it's a 0 under the square root, it is 1 solution, and if it is a negative under the square root, it would be 0 solutions. So our answer is 2 because it's positive. All right, let's flip it over to number 10. Number 10 is more discriminant, so that is square root of b squared minus 4ac. And once again, they're not in the correct order. So it would be 3x squared minus the 5x, and then minus 2 equals 0. So my a is 3. My b is -5. And my c is -2. Okay, so square root of b squared, which is negative 5 squared, minus 4 times a times c. Okay, remember, anything squared, I don't care what your calculator says, a negative times a negative is a positive. So anything squared is going to be positive. Negative 4 times 3 times negative 2, negative 4 times 3 times negative 2 is positive 24, so it's going to be plus 24. So look at that. I don't know what that is either, but I know it's positive. So once again, this is an example of two solutions. I really wish there was one on here to practice that was either one solution or no solutions. Just be sure you know how to do that. And again, I kind of told you on number 9 what those look like. So hopefully you have practiced that. Number 11 is using the entire quadratic formula. This is going to take a hot minute. So let me recap what the quadratic formula is. It is x equals opposite b plus or minus, see, I can't do it without singing, the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, there you go. Now we need to write down what our a, b, and c's are. So a, okay, well, we got to rearrange it again. Here we go. X squared is already over here, but we need to minus the 3x over and minus the 3 over in order for it to equal 0. Now we know that a is 1, b is negative 3, and c is also negative 3. Okay, and you're going to have to write tiny in both number 11 and 12 since they're both using the quadratic formula. Oh, just kidding. And number 13, you have 3 quadratic formula ones to do. So just write really tiny because I probably didn't give you enough space. So it is opposite b, so that would be 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a, which is 1. Okay, let's just start breaking it down. Under the square root, you have 9. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times 3 is positive 12. Divided by, that's just going to be 2. Okay, so then you have 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 plus 12 is 21 divided by 2. I know that there's no perfect square root of 21, so this is going to be weird decimals. And for that reason, it says round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, hundredth. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to branch it off into, let me find out what the square root of 21 is first. So the square root of 21 is, I'm going to call it 4.58 because the 2 won't bump it up. So 4.58. So I'm going to do 3 plus 4.58 divided by 2 and 3 minus 4.58 divided by 2. And I'm just going to do it in my calculator. So 3 plus 4.58 equals, please be sure you put equals in between, and then divided by 2. 3.79 is one of my answers. 3 minus 4.58 equals divided by 2 equals negative 0.79. Okay, those are crazy answers, but this is done correctly. So round it to the nearest hundredth, which we did. All right, I'm not going to rewrite the whole formula because I've got it right here. I know you're disappointed, I'm not going to sing it again. But let's go ahead and make it equal to 0. So it would be 4x squared plus 11x, and then I need to subtract 24 from 4. So 4 minus 24 is negative 20. So my a term is 4, my b term is 11, and my c term is negative 20. So it is going to be opposite b, so negative 11 plus or minus the square root of 11 squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. Okay, double check that you get all of your stuff set up correctly first. Negative 11 plus or minus 11 squared, I think, is 121. Yes. Negative 4 times 4 times negative 20. Negative 4 times 4 times negative 20 is 320 positive. So add 320, all divided by 2 times 4, which is 8. All right, negative 11 plus or minus the square root of 121 plus 320. 320 plus 121 is 441 divided by 8. Okay, I don't know if 441 is a perfect square root. Let's check and see. 441. Yes, it is. 21. So this is going to branch off and be negative 11 plus 21 divided by 8 and negative 11 minus 21 divided by 8. Since 441's square root is 21, it comes out of the square root and just becomes 21. So I'm going to use my calculator. Negative 11 plus 21 divided by 8. Negative 11 plus 21 equals, divided by 8 equals 1.25. 1.25. Good, that's already rounded to the nearest hundredth. Negative 11 minus 21 equals, divided by 8 equals negative 4. Okay, there we go on that one. Now let's do it one more time. We've got this. Move this over to the other side so it's equal to 0. And we've got A is 5, B is 3, and C is going to become positive 1 because I'm going to add it to get it to move it over to the other side. Okay, so X equals opposite B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Okay, let's just start breaking it down. Negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared is 9. Negative 4 times 5 is negative 20 times 1 is just negative 20, so minus 20 divided by 10. Okay, negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus 20 is negative 11 divided by 10. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop you right here. Anytime you have the square root of a negative, that is not possible. So these would be imaginary solutions, so I'm not going to make you come up with them. I'm just going to have you stop. Anytime you have simplified under the discriminant and you have a negative, you're going to stop right there and write that there are no solutions. And you don't have to write this part, but I do want you to know what that means. It just means, remember, that your parabola is not going to touch the x-axis at all. It doesn't mean there's no parabola. It just means it doesn't have a solution on the x-axis. Okay, so once you get a negative square root, stop right there and write the word no solutions, or no solution, I don't care. Okay, and then this is from our most recent lesson. This is just comparing linear, quadratic, and exponential. So you will have to graph these points and determine just by looking at the graph if it looks like it's linear, quadratic, or exponential. So negative 3, 0, let's go ahead and plot that. 1, 3, plot that. 0, 4, 3, 0. Okay, to me it looks like we're missing one dot, but that it is probably going to be quadratic. So I'm guessing that if I were to fill it in, it would look like this. And that is definitely a parabola. So that is a quadratic function. All right, let's do the last one. Let's plot these 0, 5, 1, 2, 3.5, and 2, 1. Okay, I can see that this is a soft curve going really close to the x-axis but never really hitting it, so it is definitely a decay. It is an exponential graph where it's decaying at a rapid speed. So this is an exponential function. All right, and just because I want you to remember linear, even though it was neither one of these examples, linear would be a straight line. So it would be like if we had a dot here and it's up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. So if you had something like this, this would be an example of linear, just so you can remember.